Hi, Mylan.
Mr. G-Man. 2022 G-Man.
Damn. Like I honestly looked at the bottom right of my computer like a couple hours ago and I was like, wait, hold up, it's not 2021 anymore. That's crazy. The
Dude, it's
three
fucking
twos in the
nuts.
year.
Oh man, I can't believe it, man. 2021 just fucking flew by. I don't even know where I was for most of the year, to be completely fucking honest. But we made it, we made it. We're live. I mean, honestly, 2021 was a fucking honestly, you know what? I had this I really had an epiphany like the other day that 2021 was a shitty year. Like it was a good year. Of course, all years are good. Like, if you just want to put in that like no bad days fucking, I don't know, reference that people do, but comparatively it's kind of a shitty year. Like I was going through my gallery. Like since I have such a bad memory, I feel like my gallery is like my memory storage. And like I'm going through 2020 and there's just like so many like dope pictures and videos and like I just feel like I looked happier. And then dude, 2021, like I had like almost no pictures. Like it's so fucking crazy. And looking back at it, like I don't know, I feel like I did a lot of dope shit. Like we had Vegas that we did, I went to Costa Rica, did Bandon, which let's not talk about that. And
New
then
York,
New York, Atlanta, like went to an insane amount of
Santa
places. And
Barbara, or slow, sorry, slow.
slow, oh man, slow. And you know what? Like to be honest, in that like in that framework of traveling, I feel like it really should have been objectively kind of my best year in terms of like me just going places with friends and like traveling. And honestly, just because of my mindset through all of that shit and just me being in this like weird, depressed, unpresent place the entire time, like I feel like it was a shitty year. Like it's so weird.
Mm, the unpresent. No, I feel that I had this moment. So I went to a concert countdown for New Year's. It was crazy because the way they had like built it up for the last minute before 12 o'clock, they're like 35, 34, 33. And I was like,
Oh,
all right,
really? They went
cool.
all out from
I'm
there?
excited. Like, that's happened like every New Year. It's like a new year. And
Mm-hmm.
then it hit. And then literally like for the last 30 seconds, you know how people talk about like before you die, you everything just like comes, you think about everything that's happened like that
Yeah.
second. It really felt like that. Like the last like 8 seconds, I was just like everything that had happened in the last year just like flew by my mind. And like I
Really?
like was I didn't cry, but I was this close to crying. I was just like so overwhelmed with just like, wow, so much
Wow.
has happened. And then I looked around everybody around me and I was just like, everyone kind of had that same feeling of just like, we all just experienced so many emotions in 2021, like,
Mm.
and nobody processed any of it. And it was a tough year
Mm.
for every human being. And it was just like, we made it. And that was like the feeling that
Mm.
it was just like we actually survived that year. And it was like,
Mm.
wow, like what a tumultuous, just everything unpredictable, just all the time, just wave after wave after wave of getting hit of just boom, boom, boom. And it was just like a really cool moment. It doesn't matter what age you are, 5 year old, 6 year old, everyone just got hit with a whole bunch of shit they were not ready for. And it was just
Yeah.
really cool to be like, we did, we lived, like we survived it. And that made
Yeah.
me
Honestly,
realize
I
like,
didn't think about it in that way.
yeah, no, that moment just like really clearly captured the fact that not only did I have a hard year, but we all did. Like as a
Yeah.
as a unit, everything that happened at the same time on the planet, be it politics, COVID, the every just oh my God, so much.
Yeah, honestly, like I know I've been caught up in my own shit just the whole year because like I don't know. I mean, I didn't even really like notice that like everyone kind of had a bad year because I don't know my in my head and I feel like this is just everybody who's fucking going through it. Like I just was like my year was shittier than everybody else's. But no, I mean you're totally fucking right. Like it was a shitty year for everyone, dude. And I guess it is honestly, it should be thought about as like crossing like a finish line or something, like some kind of victory. And like, hey, even if this year is equally as shitty, that's okay. Like just thinking about the last year is just some true accomplishment because I don't know what it is though, because I was curious your opinion on this. Like 2020 is when the pandemic started, or yeah, right. And so like it seems like going into 2021, we also should have that feeling, but like I don't feel like 2021 was as shitty as 2020, and I can't really say why. Is it just because of like just drudging through like another year of COVID.
That's a great point. Yeah. Maybe, yeah, because yeah, because maybe we had hope in 2020. I don't know. And I think like another part of it is like maybe, I mean, this is random, but maybe it was easy to blame it on Trump. And then when Biden came in, it was still the same shit. So it was like,
Hmm.
it's not even at the political level. It's like no matter who we're supporting, it's just fucked. I don't know. Is that
Right.
possible?
I mean, I do feel like in 2021, like, I don't know, yeah, like some objectively, objectively, completely not objective, but objectively good things happen. Like, again, like I said, like the traveling that I had, like, like Biden winning presidency, which, whatever the fuck your political affiliations, Trump suck dick. And like, I don't know, I feel like there's a couple other things I can really pick to that I'm just like, man, like this should have made it a great year. But like, I don't
It
know, man.
didn't.
And I'm really terrified that 2022 is going to be equally as shitty, but I just feel like it's not. Like, even just, I don't know, man, just starting off the year how I've started off this time, like I just feel like I'm so much more focused and conscious, and like there's just some changes that like really are gonna have to make this year a lot better. And I feel like after coming from such a shitty year, like, because I don't think a new year actually makes anything better.
I was just
Like
gonna,
it,
yes.
but what I do feel like it does is that it at least gives you like the motivation to do something. And that's kind of the only part that actually matters, is having the motivation. And if the new year can do that, then great. That's an amazing thing. And
I
so
was
for me,
what you just said, yes. I was literally gonna copy
just
paste
lock the
exactly what you said. Yes, correct.
that's hilarious. So it's just like, I feel like like in all of time, of course, a new year on Earth is completely like random and pointless and arbitrary. Like, it doesn't actually matter. Like, but if you make it matter, like so many people do, then I feel like you can actually really hopefully create some new change within the year. But like, what do you even like? All right, I'm curious what you think about this. I've been thinking about this a lot. What do you think it even means to grow? Like, I've been really thinking about like, what
That's
is
fucking
growth,
facts.
dude?
Yes.
Like, because I'm like, okay, this year I want to grow. I want to get better. And I'm like, dude, I like this is gonna be my year of growth. But I'm like, what? But like, what the fuck is growth? Like, I actually like
Yeah.
had you asked me this question 2 years ago, I would have been like, dude, it's getting your habits, getting aligned with your habits, and like crossing them off the check mark. It's about accomplishing the things that you set for yourself. Like, got it. But like, something about this year just taught me that like, okay, I can accomplish my goals, and I'm still gonna feel like life sucks. I
Yeah.
can be consistent with my goals and in the gym and meditation, all this, and I can still feel like life sucks. I can have a girlfriend and still feel like life sucks. I can have all of these things that like I just objectively would have been like, yo, this is growth. And I still am not happy or content or pleased or satisfied with life. So this year going into it, I'm just like, I don't even really know what growth looks like anymore. Cause it's like,
Yeah.
for people who really kind of, I don't know, are kind of like maybe less developed in their growth journey, it's like, doing something like, hey, yeah, like meditating or like going to the gym or like being nicer to people. Like, and of course you can always add those things, but it's like, once you kind of have those things on lock, it just starts becoming less and less obvious what you need to do to grow, at least for me.
Yeah. And that's like the crazy, yeah, I guess then you start moving into I just need to be more present, like that's it. But I guess
Yes.
like what I've been thinking about recently is like for me, what growth looks like is like it's two parts. So like one part of it to me kind of feels like being able to overcome anything. So like
Mm,
experiencing the entire whole realm of what a human can experience, that's what growing is. So if I've done something or experienced something or put myself in a situation that I've never experienced some before, then I have to grow just because I experienced that. But then
mhm.
that leads me then into what is the role of memory play, right? Like, do I only grow if I remember the fact that I did something like that? So, like, now I may have done some cool stuff a decade ago. Does it count as growth today because I did that a decade ago, even if I forgot what I did? Like,
Mhm.
so much of what growth is also depends on your memory. For you to feel like you're growing, you have to know where you were and then know where you're now. It's just like I don't. Yeah, maybe the whole growth thing is both. That's honestly how I've been feeling recently. I'm just like growth for growth's sake is kind of pointless.
Yeah. Yeah. No, per usual, we're always on the same fucking wave. I honestly like I really feel the same way, bro. Like I feel like I have certain things that I've been thinking about. And if I can get these things down, like I feel like And again, maybe these goals, if I can get these, this is now growth. But I feel like last year I really was focused on those more kind of hard, objective standards of like what growth looks like. And I'm going purely subjective this year, man, because last year, like, dude, I was doing the dopest things, just like completely unpresent, just like disconnected, socially anxious, depressed. Like, bro, I look back and I feel like I almost robbed myself with so many amazing things because I just was not in the right headspace at all, man. Being in like all these incredible places, man. And I don't know. I feel like I kind of fucked myself, but doesn't matter because ultimately, I'm learning from this shit. But for this year, really, dude, what I want for this year, what I want right now more than anything, my goal is to no longer feel like I'm missing something. Like, I've been really thinking about like, dude, just happiness. And I actually think it's like very, very fucking simple. Like, again, it's not easy at all, but I think it's very simple to be happy, which is just literally be happy with what you have. Like be content, get pleasure from what you have. Like, don't need anything more. And like,
yeah,
honestly, like that's a hard message to say from somebody who really comes from struggle or somebody who's really in a struggle. But for a lot of us, just like super surplus, comfortable, really genuinely having everything we need, people, dude, I think I keep searching and I think it's just all around me. And I think that's the fucking problem. Like, okay, I'm gonna tell you about my day. So I start off my day today and I was walking and I was praying and like talking to God. And what I was saying was that ultimately, like, I know I have everything I need to be happy. Like, I really can say confidently that I don't think there's anything outside of me, anything more I can have materialistically, externally, that is just going to give me happiness. I don't think so. I think I have everything I need. So then what I was talking about was ultimately the problem is that I just have no longer been able to see it. Much like how right now your brain is perceiving your nose. Your brain's always perceiving your nose, but like you're just trained not to see it because it's just always there, right? And it's just that's how so many things are for all of us all the fucking time. So for some reason, this mechanism of the brain makes it so that no matter what's going on, no matter how happy you are, eventually you're not going to be happy. So ultimately, like, what I asked for was just to be able to notice the things that like bring me happiness that I have just like stopped paying attention to. Like, I'm like, I know they're there. It's just for some reason I can't see them. And unfortunately, I'm such a spoiled motherfucker that like, it's really only when things are taken away from me that I start to appreciate them. And unfortunately, it seems like so many people are like that, but like, I don't want to be like that. Like, I don't want something to be taken away. And then that's the only time I appreciate it. Like, I try so hard to appreciate things while I have them. And like, think about it. Okay, what would it be like if this was gone? And I can't do it that well compared to if it was actually taken away. So I asked to be able to just see the things that I should be grateful for, right? And so I was at the beach, as I told you about, right? I like just like went there and went to go watch the sunset. And like, I feel like in that moment, I don't know, I feel like I kind of found it. Like, just looking at all the beautiful colors. Yeah, dude, it was just really like feeling like I was there. And it's genuinely just like being present and removing the idea, or at least like invalidating the idea that there's anything more you need in that moment. And it can go pretty deep, like something as if even being like, damn, if I just had another layer right now, this would hit. Or like, damn, like if I would have got here to the sunset like 10 minutes ago, this would be fire. Or like if I had a girl next to me, like I was looking at some people cuddling, I was like, fuck. And I was just like, you know what? It's all good. Like, this is how it's supposed to be. Like, it's just supposed to be me. This is everything. I was kind of cold and I was like, no, this is exactly how cold you're supposed to be. And like, I just convinced myself that everything in that moment was perfect. And dude, like, I literally started bawling. Like, I was looking at the sunset and I was just like, man, what a fucking fool I've been. Like, what a fool I've been to believe that I ever didn't have the things I needed to be happy. What a fool I've been to look past the health that I have, the friendships and the connections that I have, the opportunity that I have, the people around me who love me and support me every single fucking day, me being able to go in this bed, me being able to look at that beautiful sunset in front of me. There's literally probably over 1,000 things that if I really, really tried to in that moment, I could have called to be grateful for. And like, bro, we're gonna die. Like really, like this shit is like really so fucking temporary, man. Like, it's so fucking crazy. And for some reason that just became so real to me in that moment that eventually I'm not going to be able to just go and look at that sunset whenever I want. I'm not even going to be able to see the sunset eventually. And I'm just like, dude, I literally just, I felt like a fool forever feeling unhappy in the moments in which so many beautiful things were given to me. And I just realized that like, if I'm ever unhappy in those moments again, it's because I'm convincing myself that there's something I need. And then that's what I really need to do to get through that. So it was a fucking incredible moment, man, honestly. And it's such a great way to start off the year.
Wow. I feel like whenever I have those moments, I got this from The Office, when Jim and Pam are getting married, and they're like, just take a picture with your eyes, just like capture it. And like I had that exact moment at Christmas. I had my first like family Christmas. Like it was 5 families. We all like met up like for the whole week. I was sleeping over, 20 people in the same house, 10 little kids. Like my first like family Christmas ever. And the last day before everyone went back home and some of the people flew back, I like took a second to just be like, wow, like the amount of things that had to go right for all of us to be alive and here today are in the trillions, you know? And it's like, life doesn't get better than that was it. That was a peak. And I was like, captured. I had that same moment when before I left to DC. I had a lot of my friends here from different groups, some friends from neighborhood, childhood, from college. Just John came through, like so many different people from different times in my life, all at the same place, and we all sang karaoke together. And I took a second back and I was like, wow, like all the different people from different points in my life all congregated here to celebrate that I'm going to be leaving. Like I was the connection that brought all those people. And I was just like, that was another time I was like, I captured, like I am alive, you know, like sober and alive. And I feel like what you're explaining was like just that, you know, like there's nothing, this is literally the peak of life and like capturing it. And I feel like,
oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, yeah. And I feel like being able to just like mentally be like, wow, this is it, without like being able to do that, and then also not like being like, oh, if this is the peak, everything else must suck. Like being able to balance those two thoughts, you know, because I feel like sometimes when you think this is the best, some people may actually replace that thought as, oh, everything from here is going to be less than this. I guess like if you don't want to, you know, without letting that thought permeate your head, just being like, this is an amazing moment and there's a lot to be equally as amazing, but you know, this is it.
Right. No, 100%. It's understand that life is more like a mountain range than it is just a up down, because it's like there's going to be a bunch of peaks, you know, and there's going to be a bunch of downs. And I think what I feel like, you know, a great goal would be for this year is to, because I feel like those peaks are here all the time, but I really feel like at the end of the day, it just comes back to whether or not you notice it and admire it and do take that step back like you did in that moment. I think that step back is the thing that ultimately makes it. And whatever it is that you're able to cultivate in that moment, I think ultimately it's presence and awareness of the finitude of life coming together, which I think maybe, you know, they affect each other pretty strongly. But I just want to have more of those moments, man. Like imagine having a moment like that. Cause like truthfully, there's nothing unique really that happened today. Like it wasn't like nothing externally was unique or, you know, crazy that happened. It was just what I decided the day was for myself. And it's like that sunset's there every day, man. That beach is there every day. Like I can really go and do that every day, every other day, you know. And it's like, or I can, you know, go on a hike or just do something else amazing. And in each one of those moments, have that profound gratitude for the fact that I'm alive and that I'm there and that I'm experiencing that. And it's like, what if I have one of those peaks every other day, every week, instead of every 5, 6, 7 months? Because it's like, that shit is bland, bro. Like when you're only able to step back and appreciate your life every 6 months or in the really, really big moments, it's just like, dude, you're letting so many days go by without really being thankful for them. And it's like, I just don't want to do that. I don't want to waste another fucking year, dude. Like I really don't. Like, yeah.
And I think for me, it's so simple. All I have to do is turn my phone off. Once my phone is off, I feel like I'm just present. It's crazy. Once my phone is off, I'm just like alive. Really? Like it's just such an easy fix for me. It's like I just have to turn it off. I just don't though. I just have it with me all the time. I literally just turn it off. it's just my life is different. I feel like so much of
Yeah.
like what I personally seek for exists through my phone, be
Mm,
it companionship or woman or something, whatever, like just this escape boredom or escape the present. It's like always through my
right.
phone. And it's like once that's off, like you don't have, and I guess the TV, it's like you're just forced to be in the present. You know, you don't even have an
Mhm,
option to
mhm.
like do something else. You're just daydreaming, being bored. Like the reason I said that was my phone died. At the concert, I didn't have service, and then my phone died, and I didn't charge it for the whole day. The next day, and it
Countdown,
was
right?
like, yeah, after countdown,
Okay.
my phone died, and I
Okay.
didn't charge it the whole day, and it was like so awesome. I was just like, wow, like
Mm,
I'm actually present with my friends. Like I'm actually having such a good time. Like screw checking it all the time. Like, and I guess like
right.
so much,
Right.
you know, that like being present and aware for me, I feel like just getting off my phone really facilitates that space.
Dude, I honestly, I hear you so much. Like, it's crazy how much I feel like that feeling is just some wanting and need for connection. Because when I was in my, when I was in my relationship, I could really not go on my phone for the whole day, and like I'd be fine. Like I didn't ever really have a need to do it. I actually like kind of had this disdain towards my phone and always wanted it away from me. Um, and I would always do these like super long social media hiatuses. And now that I'm single and like ultimately and freshly single, going through like the pain and the heartbreak of that, dude, I find myself more on my phone than I have ever been. And it's like every time I go in there, I think I'm just looking for like connection, like not wanting to be alone, and like to, like you said, get rid of that feeling of boredom, or for me, like to get rid of the feeling of like uncomfortability or like yearning that you have. And like it's I wonder what happens if I didn't have that to distract me. What would I use for that connection? What would I use to form those connections? So would I have it with the people outside of me? Would I have it with the tree next to me? Like I don't know, but I do find myself really going on my phone in an insane amount, and ultimately I have been so unpresent because of that.
Yeah, and I think you just become forced to interact with people around you. So like I definitely want to, you know, moving forward, like actively be like, okay, I'm gonna turn my phone off for the next 5 hours. I'm gonna like every
Mm,
day
mhm.
for a chunk of my time. Because I have the nobody depends on me. Like this is
Mhm.
like the best time for me to do that because
Right,
there's
right.
no one who's like, oh, I need to call you because I'm dying. Like
Mhm.
everyone for the most part has someone they're gonna call before they call me. So it's like
Mhm.
I, having that privilege, I have to use it, you know?
Mhm. 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 No, that's a good fucking point, honestly. Yeah. Um, have you been?
Honestly, I was thinking about I was thinking about this last couple months, and like the times that I felt like quote unquote I grew the most. And it was
Mhm.
every time I like traveled. It was when I went to Atlanta, when I went to New York, when I went to Tampa, when I went to um, you know, right now San Bernardino and LA and Riverside. And it's just like wow, like so much happened in 4 days to where it was like I could not have learned this had I read a book, had I stayed at home, had I went to
Mhm.
school. Like it just would not have happened. Like so much development happened in these 4 days, and it's so rapid just because you're in a situation that you haven't been in before, you know. And it's like I was with four friends after a really long time, childhood friends, and you know I've been telling you this whole year in DC where I've been lonely, haven't had people. Like even if I have people, it's not like the close connections of roasting and all of that that I
Mhm.
had with these four guys. And it was like, I'll shout out some of the things that I learned. Um, so, you know, something that I feel like I do a lot is I try to defend myself from being triggered. I want to be as peaceful and calm and in control of my emotions all day. So the way I kind of go about it is okay, don't let anybody have that power over you, right? Either somehow mentally play around it or somehow get around the fact that what people say bothers you. So don't let anyone bother you. So I'm just going to be as courageous as I possibly can and surround myself with people who don't really like get to me. But my
Mhm.
friends from back home who I had known Preston for 14 years. I just realized that when I was there, I was like, damn, I've known him for 14
Damn.
years. Have a certain amount of like power over me with the things that they say, how just because of how well they know me. And this was the first time where a lot of the things that everyone was saying throughout the weekend, because you just spend 4 days 24 hours with somebody, they're obviously going to like piss you off or annoy you. And I was annoyed a lot. But this was
Mm,
the first time where I actually took the time to step back and be like, instead of just being like, this thing annoys you, period, like, why does that actually annoy you? And like,
mm,
in that question, I learned so much about myself. So, for
mm.
example, there was a time where Choksi was like, Gautam's just sensitive. Something that immediately just like, I was like, in my first reaction, I was like, I'm not sensitive. Fuck is this? Like, I'm like that. I'm not sensitive. I'm hard as fuck. And then it just took me
Uh-huh.
a second to be like, why did I feel like that? Like, are you sensitive? Like maybe you are. Why did this person perceive you as sensitive? Is there a reason for them to perceive you as sensitive? And there was just like many things like that throughout the weekend where I got triggered or offended. And it took me some time to be like, why am I feeling like that? Or why am I saying that? And in that, I think what I really learned is that since I'm alone, I can keep thinking that I'm developing, I'm growing, I'm becoming this great person, but it's never tested until you're in front of other people. So you can
Absolutely.
be isolated and have no companionship and think you're like this awesome human being. But it's just that you're not in environments where you have to actually test whether you grew or not. And like that really made me realize that humans, like you are so built from other people. Like it's just crazy how there is no like entity that exists like in isolation from others. Like that
Mm,
individual doesn't really exist. Like feeling upset or being a certain way. So I was telling you this earlier, right? I hold on to certain things so strongly. For example, being smart. So when somebody says something or does a certain action that like kind of makes my belief of myself shaky, I feel myself needing to push my own beliefs on them very hard. But the only reason I do that is because my own belief in myself is super shaky. I don't know what I
mm.
am. Maybe I'm not smart. So I need to make sure you think I'm smart. So I'm going to say a bunch of things, or I'm going to be upset when you say certain things so you know that I am smart. And it's like so much of that is just my own uncertainty with who I am. So I'm like, what if
Right.
I'm just not any of those things? Like the only thing it means to be smart is that other people perceive you as smart. But each
Right.
person's perception is different. So there's no such thing as being objectively smart. There's just these people, there's a group of people that perceive you as smart and a group of people that don't. And that's all there is to being smart. But just like those type of things just made me realize like, wow, you can take human interactions a lot more lightly if you just don't place that much importance on them. Like they don't really
100%.
matter that much. And but none of the main point is all of these observations would not have happened if I did not put myself in an environment where they were perceived themselves. So it's like
Mm.
growth in isolation, I realized this weekend is kind of like not useless necessarily, but it has to be done in the perception of others, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel like sometimes there are, I feel like at the end of the day, like we are social creatures,
Mhm.
right? Everything we do is like appease the group. Everything we do is to fit into the group. Everything we do is to be accepted by the group, right? So it's like being by yourself ultimately, I feel like is not even half the story. Like the story really happens when you are with the people you care about and people around you. And ultimately, I think those are the best times. It's like, what did our times have in common? A lot of that you described that were beautiful. Um, it's like being with the people around you, or for me, not being able to connect with the people around me when I wanted to. So like ultimately, I feel like that is it really is the real test. It's like the holy grail. Like it's everything being with the people we love and people we care about. Seems like sometimes though being alone, because I have experienced the opposite where I'm around people too much.
Mhm.
And then you go into such a like frenzy that you become the group, and then you're not able to actually identify what it is that you are at all. And then that's really, really difficult because then it becomes hard to disconnect yourself from everybody around you, and then you kind of just become the people's wants, you become the people's needs, their identities, their beliefs. You kind of become all those things. So like having the time to yourself is important because then you kind of are able to ground yourself. And so like it does seem like there's this like pull between like, yeah, like you have to be able to be around like being around people ultimately, like it really is that test. But there's something around being with yourself where like you can, I don't know, ground yourself and like find, I feel like I find the most peace when I'm with
Mhm.
myself. Um, and I'm able to feel the most authenticity. And then it seems like the goal is to be able to bring that into the group and not have that be tarnished by the group. But it's like being alone kind of allows you like identify that and work on that. Cause I feel like there is something about being alone though, where like you can work on yourself in a way in which you can't around others. But it's like if you get too caught up in that, now it's just like you said, like you don't exist. Like in that ultimately I feel like is a cop out too, to just like not be around people all day because
Exactly.
they're difficult, you know?
100%. And
Because
I
a lot of
think
people
like
do go there.
yeah, and I think in just what you said, there's a lot of like really complex nuance that I definitely do not have the wisdom to fully comprehend. Like, I think, for example, you had said, give me a second, you said, my memory's still shot. Something along the line of you said something about being the group, becoming the group. Oh, yes. So, still being able to okay being comfortable, or you said being you feel authentic when you're by yourself, right? That's what I was thinking. I was like, when you're alone, I don't think that there's anything even to be authentic to. Like, I feel like you just are like, you're not really like any type of way necessarily. Like, whatever the situation calls for, you can and just do. So it's like, oh, I need to itch my balls. Okay, like you're not really like, oh, what is the perception of someone else when I'm doing this? You just do it. And that's like the true case with everything. So the only thing you're authentic to is the ability to like listen to your needs and just do them. But like in front of others, that's the only place where there is this concept of then all these words only come into play when it is in interaction with others. Like in isolation, they don't even exist. But I don't think I know what I'm really talking about. But that's kind of like what I felt this weekend. I was just like, oh, like after being alone for so long, it's like I didn't even have to do like I was just myself all the time. But like that didn't really mean anything. But I guess like that's
Yeah,
a cool.
no, that's interesting, man. Because we both have such different like. Because you spent a fuck ton of time alone this year, and then I've spent a fuck ton of time with people, and it seems like we both kind of have this other appreciation for the other side of it.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like
yeah.
you've like kind of gathered all the data you need from being alone. You're like, all right, now I need more interaction, and I'm like, not fuck being around people. I need to be alone more.
Yeah. No,
I feel like it's better to want to be around people. I can say that much.
But there's definitely pros to both, you know, and I think maybe the benefit of being alone is you can take time to like reflect and like like think about the time you spent with people and then like improve that, you know, and maybe like the alone time
because the
is
difficulty is that like, so let's say there's not a possibility of being authentic when you're by yourself, because ultimately like you need another person to have that definition be possible, right? It seems like when you're around others too long though, you can't be authentic because you in a way overly become them.
Yeah, that was a good point
like,
you said earlier. Yeah.
So that's kind of the tough part as well, where like I've noticed that like, I don't know why I'm doing this with my pinky, but I noticed that a while ago that like with my house, with my house, which you know how it is, like we're like super codependent, right? Hang out all the fucking time. Like it's like I started having the wants of things that I didn't feel like were me, or the interests of things that weren't really me. And it wasn't really until I got alone where I was like, I don't really give a fuck about that at all. Like, why was I so worked up about that? Like, and I don't know, it's like having that ability to step back.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but it's like, honestly, my goal this year is really to spend way more time alone.
Yeah.
So I can have a better understanding of that dynamic, because like, you know, I think one of my issues last year was that I was around others too much. I mean, honestly, a gigantic part that I feel like is going to define this year is that like I'm no longer in a relationship. Like I was literally like, I was around my roommates all the time. And then when I wasn't around my roommates, I was around my girlfriend. And always being defined by another person, you know? And especially like with someone like me, I am a people pleaser. And I don't really have great boundaries, something I'm very much working on. So it's like the voice of what I want almost like disappeared. And so that when I became by myself, it was really hard for me to even figure out what the fuck it is that I wanted to do. Like you said, it's like I want to scratch my balls. Like I would be like, do I like, is that what I want? Like I wasn't even able to really decide that or know that. It wasn't just like, I want to do this, I'm gonna go do it. It was like, I want to do this, like, is this what other people would do?
And so I guess maybe that's even what meditation could be, the ability to find the solace in yourself, even when you're around others. You know, like that ability to kind of like if you're, you know, like instead of, for me, for example, if I'm with too many people, I need to literally step away, find some quiet, and like have a solid alone 30 minutes for me to reflect and come back. But if you're able to do
Mm,
that while you're around people, that'd be so broken,
mm,
you know?
for sure. No, definitely. Um, yeah, I mean, and like it seems like you can, right? If like if
Yeah, I think you
meditation is
can.
noticing things without judgment, it seems like you should be able to do that. And you know, I wanted to add on to your idea of what you were saying about like, you know, it's funny you said that about people kind of, so like when you think about getting bothered by things, it's because your identity is almost being put in question by someone else, right? Like, oh, this person thinks I'm smart, or this person doesn't. Now I have to like kind of reinforce my identity in this moment, so I don't have
Exactly.
this like identity crisis. Um,
Exactly.
I feel like I really was have been thinking about this a lot too, which is just so fucking crazy. And you know, one thing my therapist has been telling me a lot recently is that like I need to like stop labeling things and like be more fluid. And I feel like that just is in alignment with that because honestly, dude, like like I've been just so recently, man, I've just been having like a person be like, oh, I think you're like this, and then another person like, well, I completely think you're like this. And I get into the issue of being like, well, which one am I? Who am I? Like, what the fuck? And ultimately, I think the answer is like, does it matter? Like, I don't think it necessarily does because like you can meet 5, 6, 7, 8 people, and one person can think you're this, the other one can think you're not, and it's like so you meet two people, one person thinks you're smart, the other person doesn't think you're smart, but then the person who doesn't think you're smart doesn't place a lot of value on intelligence, like they don't care, but like they think you're really kind and they care a lot about that, but you're constantly trying to convince them that you're smart when they're like, dude, I don't even give a fuck about whether you're smart or not. Ultimately, it's like then people can place different values on those things at the same time. So it's like
Mm,
people can think different things and people can place different values on those things. And it's like you can be wanting to be valued for the thing that you care so much about when in reality this person admires you so much for another quality that you have not been putting value on. And it's
that's
like
interesting.
it's just like who you are is so fluid from moment to moment and from
Yeah.
individual to individual. And it's like for me, I don't know, man. It's like if you can just be present in that, then it's like you'll notice that, you know, like, hey, this I'm trying to put intelligence onto this person, but like this person seems to care a lot about kindness, you know, like
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
And
I
then you
guess,
think about those things. How kind have I been?
yeah. And I guess another thing is that even if 10, like, I think if someone thinks that you're smart, that says more about what they think is smart more than it says anything about me. You know, like
100%.
someone thinks I'm mean, it says a lot about what they think is me. But I think the important distinction is I don't want to fall so much into that where I'm like, oh, I'm just this perfect being. Like, whatever anyone thinks, it's just their perception has nothing to do on
For
me.
sure.
Because at
For
the end of the
sure.
day, one of the most important tenets is that you still want to have companionship. So it's like,
Mhm.
but that's all that matters. Like all these other words doesn't matter. You just want to be someone who is able to create community and companionship and all those things. But like all the other little tiny details I feel like just doesn't matter. Like I can look at be like, okay, that person thinks I'm an asshole. It doesn't say anything about me actually being an asshole. It tells me about what they think is being an asshole. But since I see 20 people who all think I'm an asshole, I'll probably take that into consideration and maybe, alternate it a little bit as opposed to holding it so like tight. I am this, I am that, I am kind, I am
Exactly.
like Jesus. Like I,
Exactly. Yeah.
why?
No, I think that like you said, the issue happens when you kind of have this like identity crisis because you just kind of become so convinced that like now you are this, right? And I
Yeah,
think that like it is so important to take into account everything people say, take into account at least. Like I'm not
yeah.
saying like you know you need to, even if you spend 5 minutes just simply being like, okay, this person says I'm an asshole. Like
Like why?
if you don't make the jump to like I'm an asshole, and you can literally just be like, yeah, that says a lot about this person, right? What does it say about me though? Like what can I see about, you know, how I'm potentially being an asshole? And like the perfect thing I think would be to ask someone, hey, how am I an asshole? The tough part is when that person's like, I don't know, you just are, and then you're kind of like, well, I don't really have anything to work with
Yeah,
now. But if they can
right.
give you something like, hey, you fucking, you know, you talk down upon this person, then you can look at it like, damn, I did talk down upon that person. Then I don't think that makes me a fucking asshole, but like I was being an asshole in that moment to you, and I could also see how that is just someone being an asshole. Like, yeah, that's something to kind of look at, you know?
And I think the best way to go about those type of conversations is say, I feel like you're an asshole, as opposed to saying you are an asshole. Like you are
Mm,
a meaner. It's just the way you act makes me you feel like this, which is not something you can really argue. You can't be like, oh, why are you feeling like that? You shouldn't feel like this. It's just That's just how I feel. I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like that's just how I feel. Like
Right,
you
right.
could take that with the grain of salt you want, but I'm just letting you know how I feel. But when you come after
Definitely.
someone as in like you are that, that's a much harder thing. Wait, like then I can see what someone would take that person because you're like you're coming after
Definitely.
me. You know what I mean? Like who I
And
am.
that's like exactly. And it's like, and it's also like, yeah, like you do 100% using those feel statements. And then I think, kind of making that distinction between like not saying that someone is something, but saying that they're acting in that way. Like, dude,
Mm,
you're acting like an asshole. Like, because something that I've noticed, and this is just from like my personal experience, and this is the thing you don't want to happen. And this is a hard thing to take responsibility for, which is how we shape people by telling them what they are. Because I had it happen to me so much, dude, where people called me asshole that I literally was just like, fuck it. I'm gonna
became
be.
that.
I started taking pride in being an asshole, honestly. Like I was just like, dude, yeah, I'm an ass. And I started going by that. And it's like so much of what you are, because we're all just kind of like actors in these roles, right? Like being like, this is kind of how I am, right? Like I'm Mylan, I'm smart. How does someone who's smart act? Let me watch this video. All right, this is how they act. Like this is kind of how I'm gonna. Oh, I'm philosophical. What do philosophical people do? Oh, they're really quiet in groups. Like, all right, like let me like fucking, just kind of like put like, and eventually we start getting all these characteristics about how we believe something should be. And so once you start telling yourself you're an asshole, like I just think you're gonna start acting in that way all the fucking time. And I
Mm,
totally feel like I started doing that. And then because you take pride in it, you're going to use it like armor. You're going to be like, I am this. This can no longer hurt me if you call me that. So I'm not even open to changing it because like I've already like taken pride in
I'm
it.
that.
And like
Wow.
how much of like what we tell people they are ultimately makes them that.
Mm. Okay, so I had this experience. I want to hear your take on this. So, on that same note, like I have a friend who views me kind of like stupidly. Like every time I hang around him, like I feel like I act just more like dumb because he makes me feel like that. But on
Uh,
this trip, I tried to like flip that on its head. Instead of feeling like I'm stupid, I just like went out of my way to ask him more questions. Like maybe his point is not to make me feel stupid, but he wants to feel smart or like capable. So I was like, okay, well, why don't I also just learn from him instead of like being like, oh, I'm so smart, I'm so smart. Why don't I just take the step back and be like, okay, let me what how much can I learn from this individual? And so I tried to like, take just like that whole idea of like there's something to be. So I guess what I wanted to ask is if someone makes you feel bad, is the answer to just not have them in your life or like mentally work around it?
I feel like that is a tough. I feel like that is a question you can honestly almost ask with anything. Like that's an
Yeah.
issue I feel like I have being somebody who's so like about growth, which is anything that comes my way, the way I react to it is rarely like I need to cut this out. It's mostly like how can I change myself so that I can deal with this. But it's so hard to know when that isn't the right answer and when it
Yeah.
is because
So
like
hard.
and honestly I really can't fucking say because sometimes things are just shitty, dude, and people are just
Yeah.
shitty,
People just suck.
and it's like yeah, you just don't mix well with this person, and then sometimes it's like hey, you are taking things personal that you should not, or you
And
have some kind of trauma that you haven't dealt with that they're just kind of like touching and that like you need to deal with that. And so maybe the answer is that you ultimately think about the individual and the type of value that they bring to your life and the type of value that you bring to their life and how that value synergizes, and maybe thinking about how this person makes you feel. But like I think that is a really, really important thing to take into account no matter what. But ultimately, I think it's important to ask yourself when you're with them, how much of it is you making yourself feel that way and how much of it is them making you feel that way. Like, is
It's
this
hard to
like if you
tell.
look at this person, is their intention like to be a dick? Like, is this person actually trying to put you down? And yeah, if that's hard to tell, then fuck, I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, though, before you do cut them out, if you do feel like you value them, it's like that conversation should be had.
It
And
has to be
like,
had. That's facts. That's actually a
and,
great point. If it should always be being had.
yeah. And,
I
and, and
think
at the end of the day, if it doesn't even keep the relationship going, it lets them know the space that you're in and why that relationship doesn't work for you. And I think
that's
the
facts.
best thing you can do is like, and this is the fucking hard one, bro. This is the if you can get this in all your relationships, bro, like I just think you're killing it. But I think ultimately, like not making them feel like it's their fault. Like coming at it from a place of like, dude, this is how this affects me. This is why this affects me. And ultimately, like, yeah, these are the things that you were doing, but like you're just doing you, bro. You're just
Yeah.
doing you. Like, and it's just it was fucking me up because I'm fucking me up ultimately. Like, and oh man, there's been so many situations recently. I feel like I've been having to put this into practice 100% with my breakup. Because I'm just trying my best to still be friends with my ex, and ultimately, like, she's living her life. She's doing her thing. Like, she's trying her best to figure her stuff out, and I don't think anything she's doing is like intentionally to like hurt me in any type of way. But it's like I take everything personal in that dynamic. And most of the times I'm like, dude, I just need to separate myself from this because like it's affecting me too much. And every single time I have to circle back to, okay, how am I hurting myself right now? And it's like I always find the answer. I don't like it. Like I can be like, yeah, like I had this expectation or I told myself that. And like they never like agreed to that. They never like said that was the case. Like, what meaning am I creating out of the situation that is my meaning instead of like whatever
Mm.
this person's meaning was? Like, objectively it's meaningless, right? But like I told myself this story when in reality all that happened was the situation itself. So I don't know. I imagine with that situation, like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's something about just like you said, thinking about the
No,
person.
you said the right answer. It's all about the communication. Like, regardless of who it is, as we grow up, we should be able to have that conversation. Like, okay,
And if you're
I
scared to
sat.
communicate with them, asking yourself why. I feel
Why?
like
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. Because then you'll find answers there about like why it's so hard to communicate with this person.
Damn. I did not think about that actually. I actually have to think more about communication. I don't communicate because honestly, it's sometimes just embarrassing. Just be like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
you actually hurt me by saying that, because then
Mm-hmm.
they know they had
Dude,
that power
they
over me.
they do, but dude, honestly, I really feel like people like appreciate that shit. Because I feel like I always try to communicate with people whenever like something they do like hurts me or anything like that, and like rarely have I had anyone just be like, "You bitch." Like, even
Really?
like
That's
people who
really
are like
nice.
very hyper masculine. Like I feel like a lot of times, like if you just come at it the right way, and again, coming at it the right way is not attacking them. I feel like that's where people go wrong.
Do you have any
Like
tips on
coming at
that?
it, um, I
Like,
mean, instead of
when do you have that conversation? A couple days after the incident? Like what? Like, how does that work?
yeah, I mean that would be great, but I feel like whenever you feel like you're really at your like your end, like you really can't deal with it anymore. Like, for example, I remember when one of my roommates, Tauntaun, I was having issues living with him, and a lot of it was me taking things personally, because of like my triggers that I had. But a lot of it was stuff that like I recognized the triggers that were there, but like they're deep. Like, it wasn't something I was just gonna be able to like fucking work through in like a day. Um, a lot of it coming back to my childhood and like my issues with like masculine men and all that type of stuff. And yeah, we had a whole conversation. And like for me, the goal was like say how I feel, take responsibility for it, and like let this person know that like this is the case for me. Um,
Mhm.
and at the end of the day, it gives them the choice to do whatever the fuck they want with it. And that ultimately gives you the answer. Like, if the person really loves you and cares about you, and you're not asking them to like fundamentally change something about themselves, like that person is gonna like do their best to stop affecting you and triggering you in whatever way they are. And if that person just continues to do that, like then it's like, hey, this person genuinely does not care enough to make that to change that way from you or make that change for me. And it's like, then I think you can just be like,
Hanging out.
well, you know
Yeah,
why now.
true. That's a good point. Yeah. So I think I need to develop my communication skills when something does bother me. I think that's a good point. And I guess, yeah, so maybe the move is when the incident happens, first sit on it, ask yourself why it bothered you, and then like do some work there. And then, after doing that, see how it progresses. And I guess what you said earlier, intent is a big part of it too. Like, did they do that to purposely, hurt you, or was it more like something that they just do often
Oh
and
yeah,
they may not just know that it affects you in that way?
definitely. Two questions to ask yourself in any relationship you're in: does this person love me, and are they intentionally trying to hurt me? And if the answer is they love you and they're not intentionally trying to hurt you, then it's like, dude, we can make this work. Like we can get this, because it's like they're intentionally trying to hurt you. You don't need them around you. If they don't love you, you don't need them around you. That's no reason to put up with anything for anybody. But it's like once
Mm.
you have those bases covered, like that you have like some kind of ground to work on, and you have something to move through. But yeah, man, man, it's fucking that is a tough one though. But it's also, people appreciate, I think, when you do that work and you come to them and tell them an issue, because they look at you and they're like, whoa, like they can see that it's something you really thought about, something you really tried to change. Like if you can show somebody that it's like, yo, dude, this hurt me. Like I, at first I was mad, but like I saw that like this came from like when I was a kid, this fucking person used to do this assist to me and like it like really fucked me up. And like, I've been trying to like work through it, but like I keep on hitting this wall. And like,
Damn.
whenever it is that you act in that way, like, dude, I see that like it makes me feel the same way I did in that situation. Like, I'm not saying
Oh,
it's your
that's
fault.
fire, bro. That's
Yeah, I don't
fire.
know.
No, that's
And
fire. No, no, no. I never thought about that. Like, if you actually let the person know why it affected you, like, then they also understand you better in that and the community. It's so as opposed to just saying how I would have done it if you didn't say that right there, is I would have just been like, hey, you are doing this thing that affects me, and I would appreciate if you stop. And like, that is not nearly as powerful as, hey, you're doing this thing, but it affects me because of this, this, and this. And I'm trying to, get over it, but it's still taking me some time. And then if you could be more, at least then they know what's going on in your brain, and it's not like what they
exactly.
do is just affecting you directly.
Exactly. And like, dude, so like, here's a story that I just think outlines that situation perfectly, dude. And it's just like, just communicate. So like, you might know this already. I don't know if you do or don't, but our neighbor Corey, in the old house, hated us, dude. We'd make so much noise and he'd always yell at us. Like he literally broke in our backyard one time, like shirt off, and was like, shut the fuck up. Like always was yelling at us all the time. And he had like this kid and like, he'd like, my kid's trying to sleep, whatever. But like the way he went about it just like pissed us off. So like we would just make more noise. And one day, one of the roommates, I don't know if it was Tauntaun or Matt, went and talked to him. And he told us that he right now is in a custody battle for his kid, and that he's trying to prove to the court that his house is a place where like his kid will be safe to grow. And ultimately us making noise is fucking that up. Dude, every single person in that house felt like a terrible person. And we had no clue why he was so mad about it. And we were like, yo, I don't know. Like we did be quiet to some extent, it's also 6 guys in the pandemic. Like it's only we can really only be so quiet, but like everyone did really, really, really cool it like to their highest extent. And now when somebody said, shut up, like the message behind it wasn't like, oh, shut up, Corey's gonna get mad at us. The message was like, dude, Corey might not be able to have his kid live with him. And like, cause we knew the situation fully. And so like, even when you get mad at that person in the future, say you do get affected by that, the person knows you're not mad because you're just being a dick. Like they know that, they hear that story that you told them. Like and if that person has empathy, they can feel what you felt going through that, And if someone really loves you, like they're not gonna want to do that,
Yeah, this is teaching me a lot about just communication. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I don't do a lot of like, oh, I'm this way because of this type of work. But I feel like in situations like that, where you are actively working on those as well, they can be extremely useful. I feel like I have been on the side where a lot of people use past traumas as excuses, but like using it as a way where like this is something that's affecting me. But if they're able to also see that that is something you're working on, I think, ties it in nicely.
Exactly. And like I think ultimately what it does is it doesn't make the person feel like they're a problem, and that you're trying to change them. So like that was something that was so powerful in my relationship, and why I think it was successful for so long is because like that's kind of like a unspoken rule that we had, and it was always like, at the beginning of our relationship, it's like we'd have a problem, Bree would come up to me and be like, dude, you're playing too much fucking video games, like it's fucking annoying, like stop. And then I would just be like, okay, like, but I'd ask her like, why does that bother you? Like, like, what is the issue here? And so like, eventually we got to the point where I told her, I was like, hey, like, if you ever have an issue with me, like, could you please figure out what it is that like I'm triggering before you tell me? Because then it'll really help me understand you just a lot better. And so we got to the point where anytime we had a problem with the other person, it was never like, hey, you're doing this, this, and this. It was like, okay, fuck, let me figure out where this bothers me. Okay, look, I feel unloved when you don't give me attention. We were playing video games. And like when I was a kid, I wasn't getting attention because like my sister was always getting the attention. Like ultimately, like I feel that exact same feeling that I was feeling then. And like it just doesn't make me feel good. And like now, like, how am I as a person who loves this individual just gonna be like ignoring them playing video? I'm like, I know what they fucking went through. And I'm like, wow, I get it, man. Like that, damn, that hurts. Like, I'm sorry. And then it lets you know, like, hey, you're not the problem. Like, this was the problem. I'm trying to deal with it, and this is making it, and this is like bringing that up constantly. So, yeah, I think it's a great way of going about one little step of communication.
Yeah,
I would say.
I will keep that in mind. Nice,
dude. If you can just get like people are some master of the piano. Some people are masters like if you can just become a master at communication, because there's so many little tools and tips and techniques out there, dude. Like even just ways of like phrasing sentences. Like I wish I could remember this one, dude, that was so powerful about like
you used to
criticizing your partner. What happened?
No, you used to tell me another one. It wasn't about that, but I forgot what it was. Continue. But what were you saying? I saw this. Oh, sorry. Continue.
No, I can't even remember. It was just something about criticizing people, and it was. I know I'm not. I don't have a memory, but it was something about criticizing people, and instead of like saying like, "Hey, like you're doing this," or like, "Hey, you're doing this wrong," it was like something about like creating a story and like, man. I think you
told me that one. I remember when you told me, I was like, "Oh, shit." But there was this, in terms of phrasing, there was this joke I heard Bill Burr say where he was like, the difference between a racist and someone who's just angry is like where you put the fuck. So if he was like, he was like, if a black dude says something like, oh, this motherfucking Asian, or this, he was like, this Asian motherfucker was like doing like, I was at the grocery store and this Asian motherfucker got me fucked up. And he was like, see, no one takes it seriously. But if you change that word and put it before Asian, you said this motherfucking Asian, then all of a sudden what you have to say has a completely different meaning. But the way you said it was hilarious. Bill Burr is so funny.
Yeah. He's my favorite comedian. Bill Burr is my favorite. Yeah,
Bill Burr is a goat. Like he's actually goated at comedy.
Oh yeah, no one. I feel like I'd put him like behind Dave Chappelle, honestly, like for me, like maybe like behind Kevin Hart too as well. But like he for me gives me the same thing as Dave Chappelle on like a lesser scale. Like he's really intelligent and stupid and funny. Like, and it's just like the perfect combination of shit that he brings together for my fucking comedic needs.
Yeah, he's so funny. He just says anything too. He's vile.
He doesn't give a fuck, honestly. Yeah. And it's so funny too, because I remember like, and not that this justifies anything, but it was just like interesting. Because he makes all these jokes, as all comedians do, and like a lot of them have racial implications. It was very crazy to find out that his wife was black. And I was like, oh, because he, he always uses his wife's voice. One thing I love is he always uses his wife's voice, and he never makes a like stereotypical black woman voice. Like,
yeah. So he's never mentioned it either. He's never mentioned it to just use like points.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's so crazy. But like, it's like you'll hear these jokes about him, like this guy's fucking racist. And again, maybe he is. I don't fucking know. But like, there's at least some evidence that like he's not, to some extent. Like I don't know. But yeah, man, to fucking wrap this thing up because I gotta eat. So, I kind of spoke about one thing for me this year that could really be that I think would be, life changing if I can really implement it. It's not feeling like I need more in every experience that I have, because ultimately it's like I have been becoming like really conscious of how often it is that I'm in an experience and I'm constantly craving another one. Whether it is me driving to a certain type of place, like dude, drives can be so lit. Like you can just sit, like instead of thinking of a drive as like you going to like some type of destination, like just thinking of that as like its own experience in itself. It's like there's so many beautiful things to see. Like you can listen to great music podcasts and have great conversations with people. Walking to a certain, like understand that like there's just no like journey. Like it's all destinations, right? Or like there's no destination. It's all journeys, right? Like, if you can think about it any type of way, like I just want my life to be like in every moment where like because it's like I will be hanging out with my boys and I'm like, damn, I really, really wish I was like eating right now. Then I'm eating and I'm like, fuck, I really want to be like having sex with this girl. And then and it's just always me looking to something else and I'm never present enjoying what I'm doing. So if I can just really be in every moment, think of it its own individual piece and appreciate that shit, bro. And more sunsets and more sunsets. That's honestly what I think it will just give me an incredible fucking year.
And sunrises. I have never seen a sunrise in years. Like I have a friend who was like, bro, I'm telling you, you start seeing sunrises and sunsets every day, your life will automatically change. Like,
dude, that's a wise individual whoever said that.
Yeah, no, sunrises, like, I have to eventually.
Sunrises be hitting different for sure.
Yeah, I don't know the last time I saw one. Probably Vegas.
Mine was in Hawaii. Like actually, no, that might have been it. That was a great sunrise. But I want to ask you, so what are some
big ones
this year that if you can implement them?
I mean, dude, I think Like the biggest thing is just see new things. Just put yourself in things that you have not done before. Anytime someone offers an adventure for me, have almost
Mm,
never say no. Like I will always say
mm,
yes to any adventure as long as it's not expensive. I'll be like, I'm down. Like just because like you never know what's gonna happen. So why say
mm,
no? And I think
mm,
one thing I'm learning to, I have a lot of like anxiety right before I leave somewhere. I'm always like, maybe I'm not gonna have a good time. But I have never not had a good time in the
mm,
entire year of traveling. Every time before I leave, I'm like, I'm kind of scared. Like I'm leaving all my responsibilities, this and that. Maybe it's not going to work out. All the questions, but it works out
mm,
every time. And it's like
mm.
your brain will just figure it out and it'll always be awesome. So just grab what you need and go.
Hell yeah, man. No, 100%, honestly. I just realized you have Nighthawks right there above your jersey. Tight. Um,
Yeah,
tight.
that's an awesome painting.
That is yes, absolutely. I
But yeah,
want to add one thing also that I feel like is in alignment with yours that I've also really, really didn't think about that I didn't really remember until you said it. But it like doing things, like really doing things
yeah.
like this year, like not just like having no week be like, oh, this is just another week. Like I'm getting like really being like, dude, I want to go camping by myself. Like I'm just gonna go camping by myself. Like, hey, like I want to go like to just visit Arizona, like just to do it. Like I'm just gonna do like like you said, going out and experiencing things, but it's like understanding that like you are the catalyst for like the adventure of your life. Like if your life is not looking adventurous enough, like make it adventurous, dude. Like we always wait for somebody to be the one to be like, hey, you guys want to go here? Hey, let's do this. Like, hey, let's do that. Being that person who's like,
Mm,
dude, I'm gonna get everyone together and we're gonna go and do this. And like doing it all the fucking or just, hey, no one's down, you just go and do it your fucking self. But like really just actually having new experiences all the fucking time. Like not letting your life turn to this boring fucking rut. Like, bro,
yeah.
there is so much fucking world out there, man. Like even just around you. And it's like sitting in one place all the time and doing the same thing. It's like you are trapping yourself to a lifestyle that you're not going to enjoy. Like there's just no way. And the only person to blame is yourself. Cause like whatever it is, like for me, it's a lot of anxiety, dude. Like I just feel more comfortable doing the same things all the time, but it doesn't make me happier. So choosing happiness over comfort. That's the goal for the year, man.
Yes. Everything you just said, yes. That's like basically everything I've learned and just something I'm still working on implementing.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah, man. I'm glad to get this out the way.
Well, to end the night, I'll end it with a quote by Carl Jung. You are what you do, not what you'll say you'll do.
Sheesh.
Shit, you see it, boy.